Hey folks, this is Kalani. Stop what you're doing right this very second, especially if what you're doing is a horrific vision. Or, I guess if you're getting ready for a horrific vision, because if you spent the vessel, then it's too late. But there are some massive changes coming with the next weekly reset, which will make you want to save up as many vessels as you possibly can. It's just not worth running them this week when we're going to get so much better loot next week. More about that in a second. There are also some crazy goings on with the latest looking for Raid Wing, thanks to how problematic those two fights can be, and then I want to have a little chat about the Shadowlands Alpha as well. You might be wondering just how good the changes to Horrific Vision loot could be, and I reckon with these changes, Horrific Visions will go from a decent kind of side source of gear to one of the best gearing options in the game right now. It's just one simple change too. It's not higher item levels, it's not even more loot. After the next reset, all loot from the Horrific Vision system will be guaranteed to be corrupted, so it doesn't matter if you get just the main objective or if you get 5 masks full cleared, the loot you get at the end will be corrupted. No ifs, no buts, no questions asked. It will always be corrupted. The main complaint with corrupted gear so far boils down to availability. It's pretty fun working out some sets that provide different effects and at different total corruption levels for when you're doing easy content, when you're doing a lot of AoE like in Mythic Plus dungeons, or maybe you need to tone things down for a progression boss in the raid. Being able to chop and change things around and work out the best corruption gear you can wear below certain corruption levels is one of the best parts of the system, but that can only happen if we actually have a lot of corrupted effects and gear to work with. The only guaranteed sources of corrupted gear were the 2 weekly caches, one for Mythic Plus and one for PvP Conquest. Everything else was a roll of the dice, but no more. After the next weekly reset, all loot from Horrific Visions will join the guaranteed corrupted club. That's actually kind of insane. The weekly caches are 1 piece of loot every week. The Horrific Visions can give you loot every time you complete the main objective. The item level will depend on how many objectives and masks you use and what rewards you've been given for the week already, but if you run 5 visions and get the main objective done, with obviously multiple other objectives, you should get 5 pieces of corrupted gear for the week, as long as you're actually doing objectives so you get the higher item level rewards first. This gives us access to another 470 item level piece of corrupted gear every week, as well as 465, 460, 455, 450. It keeps going down until 430. That's a lot of chances to get the corrupted effects you want, and it might just be the sneakiest place to put more corrupted gear. Visions require coalescing visions, which come from daily stuff. They might have got us at this point, chaps. Corrupted gear is a good reward for daily stuff, even if it is a bit of a roundabout way of getting it. Daily stuff for coalescing visions for horrific visions, and then getting the gear from horrific visions. But either way you look at it, Horrific Visions just became significantly more rewarding, or at least they will become more rewarding next reset. This also gives us access to more corrupted gear, which is by far the weakest part of the system as a whole. We might actually get some Twilight Devastations, or percent masteries, or infinite stars, or whatever it is you're looking for. This isn't going to fix absolutely everything wrong with corrupted gear, obviously, but it is a good step forward in a system plagued by issues. This also keeps Horrific Visions valuable as we start clearing all objectives with 5 masks active. We have sockets to farm with corrupted mementos, and now we also have corrupted gear to farm thanks to these incoming changes. I'm super excited to see what I get my hands on next week. Maybe I'll actually get some stuff worth using. And I encourage you all to save all the vessels you can this week and do them next week if you have the time, and maybe even the week after that and the week after that. Any moored vessels you have for the upcoming weeks will be worth way more than a vessel right now. An extra few pieces of corrupted gear might just get you the effects you've been looking for. Alright, cool, more corrupted gear, but what's going on with the last wing of Looking for Raid Ny'alotha? The two fights left are the Carapace of N'Zoth and the N'Zoth fight itself. If you haven't been poking your toes into the normal or heroic raid by now, you might be surprised by just how long these two fights can be. The Carapace fight can be over 10 minutes and it consists of 3 phases, and you can die very horribly in any phase if you aren't careful. Lots of tentacles that slam down, lots of ads you need to kill, and honestly quite a bit of coordination to kill everything you need to in the small time limits you have. N'Zoth is a different monster altogether, but there is one common link between the two fights. They both have sanity meters. When you run out of sanity, which can happen if you don't kill monsters fast enough or you stand in the bad purple puddles, you'll get mind controlled and start casting abilities that will decimate your raid sanity if you aren't killed quickly. Here's a fun fact you might not have known: if you don't have the legendary cloak from patch 8.3 equipped when either of these fights start, you will instantly become mind controlled. Not only does this mean you won't be able to DPS, tank or heal the boss whatsoever during the 10-minute encounters, but you'll be trying to nuke other players' sanity right from the start. If multiple people don't have their cloak equipped, you just can't kill the boss. It's as simple as that. Now imagine if you could queue into this Looking for Raid without ever obtaining the legendary cloak, and you have a good picture of what early Tuesday and Wednesday looked like for the last wing of LFR. As soon as the boss was pulled, several group members got MC'd because they didn't have the cloak, so the raid can't really continue until those players leave or they get kicked, and let's be honest, they're probably going to wait until they get kicked. Then if anyone else comes in without the cloak, you have to kick them too. I don't really understand how some players that aren't alts don't have their cloak yet. It seems like one of those things that everyone would even want to pick up no matter what, but it became a real issue for anyone wanting to get through LFR. Now thankfully they have put an additional restriction on queuing for the last wing of LFR with the latest round of hotfixes. You have to have obtained your legendary cloak before you can try to get in now, so that should help fix some of the issues. I've still seen some players just run around without their cloak actually equipped though, to try and troll the raid finder group, but they usually get kicked pretty quickly. So now you actually have a shot at every single player being able to take part in the encounter at least, but that doesn't mean it's going to be over anytime soon. The Carapace fight is a bit more straightforward and linear when compared to N'Zoth, so I haven't seen too many issues with that one outside of players getting mind controlled, but N'Zoth seems to be whipping a lot of players' butts. Some players have stayed in the same LFR group for over 5 hours trying to kill the last boss of the expansion, and that's because the mechanics just aren't very noob friendly. I know LFR gets a lot of flack for being the super easy mode, and the only players who are in there are the ones not good enough to run normal, and while that isn't always true, I do find that anytime I pop into a Looking for Raid group, 80% of the players seem to be semi-AFK at best while whacking away at the boss. It's not everyone, I know that, but a lot of LFR fights can be completed with just 20% of your group paying attention. That's just the nature of the beast, sadly. Usually the mechanics are there, they just don't do anything. When that's the case, you're pretty much guaranteed a kill, except for when it's not. You need your entire raid to be paying attention and actively contributing for these two last bosses, and when you join a group that has some of those semi-AFKers, it's not really going to end well. N'Zoth in particular has some hefty DPS checks in every phase. You have to kill the tentacles to debuff Psychus, you have to kill Psychus before he wipes your raid, you have to kill the tentacles in phase 2 before they overwhelm you, and you have to send half your group downstairs to do phase 1 again, and the same DPS checks apply. Then the last leg is a burn phase as well. So if you have 5 DPS AFK, chances are you just won't have enough damage to get through the fight, even if you get to 5 or 6 or 7 stacks of determination. I've seen a lot of posts and groups getting to 10 stacks. It just isn't an easy fight, which makes it quite LFR unfriendly. I do expect to see some nerfs coming in for the two fights in particular. They tend to make LFR achievable for almost any group eventually anyway, but if you were hoping to get N'Zoth killed in LFR sometime soon, I might wait until next week until more of the bumps have been smoothed over. And then the last thing I wanted to talk about is the Shadowlands Alpha, and the lack of it really. As more and more time goes by without the alpha starting up, it's starting to look like we might be in for a very late 2020 release of the expansion. All of the pre-orders available will tell you the game will launch before December 31st, which basically just means they plan to release it sometime this year. We've had some late summer / early fall releases for the most recent expansions. Legion and BfA both released in August, and that would be an incredible time to see the Shadowlands expansion, but that's only 5 months away at this point. 5 months just is not enough time to get through a decent alpha, then a good beta, and finish with a polished product. It just simply doesn't give the dev team enough time to get the job done. As the months roll by without any solid news, it's starting to look like we might see a November or December release again. The Warlords of Draenor expansion released in November, so it's not like we haven't seen that in a while. It's just a little disheartening that we'll have patch 8.3 for a very extended period of time without knowing what's coming next. Or at least, any idea about when we'll get something new. We won't see a patch 8.3.5 from what we've been told, which could be a good thing, I guess. No patch 8.3.5 means more time and effort being pumped into Shadowlands, which might mean the alpha and beta progresses a bit faster. But if the testing period flies by and we get an August release, I don't know if that's actually preferable. Battle for Azeroth went through a good testing period, but a lot of feedback about certain system wasn't really taken to heart. If the testing period is cut shorter, surely that just means less time for the players to voice their concerns. I feel like we're getting close though. Another build was deployed for the alpha, even though it's still encrypted, which means they're chugging along at a steady pace. We still haven't heard any word about when the alpha will finally open up, but with the builds on both WoW Dev and WoW Vendor clients, we could see something very soon. The WoW Vendor builds typically went up a few weeks before the PTR opened up for BfA's patches, and that was updated just over a week ago at this point. We've also passed all of the previous timeline plots for other expansions, which means we've currently waited the longest for the Shadowlands Alpha to actually open after the expansion was announced. So keep your fingers crossed, we could have a whole new World of Warcraft any time now. Unless coronavirus has something to say about it. But that's all I wanted to talk about in this video. What do you think about the changes to Horrific Vision loot? Will this encourage you to run more Horrific Visions to try and secure those amazing corrupted effects? Have you poked your toes into the last wing of LFR yet? If you have, how did it go? Don't spare any of the details. Leave all your thoughts in the comment section below. A big thank you to all of our supporters over on Patreon. You can see their names floating by on screen. If you want to join these lovely guys and gals, you can find a link in the description below. Remember to leave a like just below the video before you leave. If you want to see more, make sure to subscribe. But apart from that, thanks for watching folks, good luck and have fun, and as always I will see you next time.